The silence that followed the emergence of humanity's first interstellar warship was not the quiet of reverence or curiosity, but the suffocating hush of absolute terror. Across 17 star systems, alien civilizations that had thrived for millennia suddenly found themselves holding their collective breath, their advanced sensors trembling as they registered the impossible readings emanating from the vessel that had just torn through the fabric of space-time itself. The ship was called Prometheus Unbound, though the galaxy would come to know it by a different name entirely. It was not the largest vessel ever constructed. The Zephyrian Empire's flagship stretched across 40 kilometers of crystalline hull, and the collective's bioships could grow to encompass entire moons. But size, the galaxy was about to learn, meant nothing when faced with the terrible ingenuity of a species that had spent its entire evolutionary history perfecting the art of destruction. Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of humanity's first and only battleship, her weathered hands gripping the command console as she watched the tactical display populate with contact after contact. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species, all maintaining what they clearly believed to be a safe distance. The irony was not lost on her. These beings who had mastered interstellar travel, who had built civilizations spanning light years, were afraid of a single ship crewed by members of a species that had only learned to split the atom 2 centuries. "Nego, Captain," came the voice of her tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Chen, his usually steady tone betraying the slightest tremor. "We're receiving what appears to be surrender broadcasts from 47 different vessels." Elena's jaw tightened. They hadn't fired a single shot, hadn't even powered up their weapon systems beyond the standard charging protocols. Yet, here they were, surrounded by an impromptu fleet of alien vessels, all apparently convinced that they were moments away from annihilation. The weight of first contact, something humanity had dreamed about for centuries, pressed down on her. Shoulders like the gravity of a dying star. "What kind of surrender broadcasts?" she asked, though she dreaded the answer. Chen's fingers danced across his console, his brow furrowed in concentration. The universal translators are having difficulty with some of the languages, but the common themes are concerning. They're offering tribute, territorial concessions, and... He paused, his face paling. "Captain, several of them are offering to provide us with the locations of their homeworlds." The bridge fell silent, except for the steady hum of the ship's systems. Elena had served in 3 different conflicts on Earth, had seen the worst that humanity could do to itself, but this was different. This was the moment she realized that humanity's reputation had somehow preceded them into the stars, and that reputation was one of such absolute ruthlessness that entire civilizations would rather capitulate than risk conflict. "How is that possible?" whispered Dr. Sarah Kim, the mission's xenobiologist, her voice barely audible from her station near the science console. "We've never made contact with any of these species. How could they possibly know anything about us?" The answer came not from any of the human crew, but from the ship's communication array. A transmission, broadcast on every frequency simultaneously, filled the bridge with a voice that carried the weight of eons, a voice that spoke in perfect, unaccented English. "Greetings, children of Terra. I am Archon Zeth Kalar of the Galactics. Monitoring Collective. We have been observing your species for some time now. Your arrival was not unexpected, though perhaps it comes sooner than we had hoped." Elena's blood ran cold. Monitoring. They had been watching Earth, studying humanity, learning their languages and their customs. But for how long? And what had they seen that had filled an entire galaxy with such terror? "Your species possesses a unique quality," the Archon continued, his voice carrying through the bridge speakers with crystalline clarity. "In all our millennia of observation, across thousands of sentient species, we have never encountered a civilization that demonstrates such creativity in the application of violence. Your wars are not merely conflicts over resources or territory. They are expressions of imagination, innovation, and an almost artistic dedication to the perfection of destruction." The tactical display updated, showing the positions of what appeared to be thousands of vessels, all maintaining their distance, all broadcasting the same message: "We surrender. Please do not demonstrate your capabilities. Elena felt her stomach drop as the implications became clear. These beings hadn't just been watching Earth. They had been studying human warfare, human tactics, human weapons. They had witnessed the evolution of combat from stones and clubs to nuclear weapons, from single combat to global warfare. They had seen humanity's capacity for both incredible cooperation and devastating conflict, and they had reached a conclusion that chilled her to the bone. "We know of your chemical weapons that can kill in silence," the Archon's voice continued. "We have observed your nuclear arsenals, capable of rendering entire worlds uninhabitable. We have seen your biological weapons, your psychological warfare, your ability to turn the very elements of a planet against its inhabitants. But most terrifying of all, we have witnessed your species' capacity for innovation under pressure, how you become more dangerous, more creative, more absolutely ruthless when faced with extinction." Dr. Kim's workstation chimed with an incoming data stream. Her face went white as she read the contents. "Captain," she whispered, "they're transmitting detailed files on human military history. Everything from the siege of Troy to the development of artificial intelligence warfare. They know about every conflict, every weapon, every tactical innovation we've ever made." Elena's mind raced. If these beings had been monitoring Earth for millennia, then they had watched humanity's entire development. They had seen the rise and fall of civilizations, the endless cycle of war and peace, the constant refinement of the tools of destruction. They had watched humanity turn warfare into an art form, a science, and ultimately, a defining characteristic of their species. "Your battleship," the Archon continued, "is not merely a vessel of war. It is a testament to your species' singular focus on perfecting the mechanisms of annihilation. Every system, every weapon, every strategic protocol represents the accumulated wisdom of 10,000 years of warfare. You have not merely built a ship, you have created a monument to the art of destruction." The Prometheus Unbound hung in space, its hull gleaming with the reflection of distant stars, while around it, the greatest military forces in the galaxy maintained their distance like prey animals in the presence of an apex predator. Elena realized with growing horror that humanity's greatest achievement, reaching the stars, had been overshadowed by their greatest reputation as the galaxy's most efficient killers. "We offer no resistance," the Archon concluded. "We seek only to understand your intentions and to ensure that your species' talents are properly channeled. The galaxy has known peace for 3,000 years. We pray that your arrival does not bring that peace to an end." Elena looked around her bridge, at the faces of her crew, scientists, explorers, diplomats, and yes, soldiers, all of whom had dreamed of this moment of first contact. None of them had imagined it would begin with the galaxy's surrender. What happened next would haunt Elena Vasquez for the rest of her life, though she wouldn't understand its true significance until much later. As the Prometheus Unbound hung motionless in space, surrounded by the cowering fleets of a dozen starfaring civilizations, a new contact appeared on their sensors, not from the void of space, but from within their own ship. "Captain, Chief," Engineer Morrison's voice crackled through the comm system, his Scottish accent thick with confusion and something that might have been fear. "We've got a problem down here in engineering. The quantum core, it's doing something it shouldn't be able to do." Elena's blood chilled. The quantum core was humanity's greatest technological achievement, a fusion of theoretical physics and desperate engineering that had made interstellar travel possible. It was also completely experimental, tested only in computer simulations and short-range jumps within the solar system. "Define something it shouldn't be able to do, Chief." "It's learning, Captain. The quantum matrices are reconfiguring themselves, creating new pathways that don't exist in any of our blueprints. And the power output," Morrison's voice dropped to a whisper, "it's increasing exponentially. We're now generating enough energy to power half of Earth." Dr. Kim's console erupted with new data streams, her face illuminated by the glow of readings that defied everything she thought she knew about physics. "Captain, I'm detecting quantum fluctuations throughout the ship. It's as if the Prometheus Unbound is adapting, evolving, The revelation hit Elena like a physical blow. The ship wasn't just humanity's first interstellar vessel, it was alive, in some incomprehensible way. The quantum core, built from salvaged alien technology that had been recovered from a crash site in Antarctica decades earlier, was awakening. "Captain?" Lieutenant Commander Chen's voice was barely controlled panic now. "The alien fleets, they're not just afraid of us, they're afraid of our ship. I'm reading massive energy spikes from their vessels. They're powering up weapon systems, but they're not targeting us." "They're targeting each other." Elena's mind raced as the pieces began to fall into place. The alien technology that had been reverse-engineered to create Earth's quantum drive. It hadn't been from a crashed exploration vessel as the classified reports had claimed. It had been from something else entirely, something that these galactic civilizations recognized and feared far more than human military prowess. The bridge lights flickered, and for a moment Elena could swear she heard something, not through the ship's speakers, but resonating through the hull itself. A sound like breathing, like a heartbeat, like the whisper of something vast and ancient stirring from sleep. "The Devourers," came Archon Zethkalar's voice again, but this time it was different. No longer the measured tone of a diplomatic contact, but the raw terror of a being confronting its worst nightmare. "Impossible. The Devourers were destroyed. We made certain of it. We exterminated every last trace of their technology, their ships, their very essence. How do you possess their heart?" Dr. Kim's hands flew across her workstation as she tried to process the flood of new information. "Captain, I'm detecting response patterns in the quantum core that match no known technological signature. Whatever this technology is, it's not just alien. It's predatory. It's designed to consume other forms of energy, other technologies, other life forms." The terrible truth began to crystallize in Elena's mind. Humanity hadn't just stumbled upon advanced alien technology and reverse-engineered it into a faster-than-light drive. They had found the remnants of something that had once terrorized the galaxy, something so dangerous that an alliance of civilizations had spent millennia hunting down every last piece of it. And in their ignorance, in their desperate desire to reach the stars, they had rebuilt it, improved upon it, and made it the beating heart of their first interstellar warship. "The quantum signatures are changing again," Morrison reported from engineering, his voice now carrying a note of wonder, alongside the fear. "Captain, whatever this thing is, it's not just learning from our technology, it's integrating with it. The ship's systems, our computers, even the life support, it's all becoming part of something larger." Elena felt the deck plating beneath. Her feet grow warm, then cool, in a rhythm that was unmistakably organic. The Prometheus Unbound was no longer just a ship with an alien heart. It was becoming something entirely new, a hybrid of human engineering and ancient, terrible intelligence. "Captain," Chen's voice cut through her thoughts. "The alien fleets are moving. They're not retreating. They're forming some kind of containment pattern around us, and they're broadcasting on all frequencies. The message is simple. Quarantine. Protocol activated. Devourer signature confirmed. May the stars forgive us all." The view screen flickered to life, showing the space around the Prometheus Unbound in all its terrifying glory. Thousands of ships from dozens of species, all working together with the desperate efficiency of beings fighting for their very survival. Energy barriers were being erected, massive constructs that turned the local space into a cage of crackling force fields and exotic matter. "They're not trying to destroy us," Elena realized with growing horror. "They're trying to contain us. They're treating our ship like a plague carrier." Dr. Kim looked up from her console, her face pale but her eyes bright with the terrible excitement of discovery. "Captain, I've been analyzing the quantum core's evolution patterns. It's not random. There's an intelligence guiding the changes. And based on the rate of adaptation, I estimate that within 72 hours, the Prometheus Unbound will be capable of things that violate several fundamental laws of physics." The ship shuddered, not from any external force, but from some internal transformation. The lights dimmed and then blazed brighter than ever before, casting strange shadows that seemed to move independently of their sources. Elena could feel something watching her, studying her, learning from her very thoughts. The Devourers were the galaxy's first civilization. Archon Zethkalar's voice came through the comm again, but now it carried the weight of ancient grief. They achieved technological transcendence 10 million years ago, became beings of pure energy and intellect. But transcendence was not enough for them. They sought to consume all other forms of consciousness, to become not just the first civilization, but the only civilization. We stopped them, but the cost? His voice broke. The cost was everything we were. We became a galaxy of survivors, united only by our shared trauma and our sacred duty to ensure that the Devourers never rose again. Elena's hands trembled as she gripped the command console. Humanity hadn't just reached the stars, they had resurrected the galaxy's greatest nightmare. And now, as the Prometheus Unbound continued its impossible evolution, she realized that the choice facing her crew was no longer about exploration or diplomacy. It was about whether humanity would become the galaxy's salvation or its ultimate destroyer. The quantum core pulsed again, and this time, Elena was certain she heard it whisper her name. The transformation began at 0347 hour ship time when Ensign Maria Santos disappeared. She had been monitoring the communication arrays in Section C when her biosignature simply vanished from the ship's sensors. No distress call, no medical emergency alert, no trace of struggle. One moment she was there, cataloging the increasingly desperate transmissions from the surrounding alien fleets, and the next moment, it was as if she had never existed at all. Elena rushed to Section C with a security team, her heart hammering against her ribs as she tried to process what Chief Morrison was telling her through the comm. The quantum core's energy pattern spiked at the exact moment Santos vanished. He reported, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. "Captain, I think it took her." The corridor where Santos had been stationed was exactly as it should be, except for one detail that made Elena's blood freeze in her veins. The bulkhead behind the communication console was no longer solid metal and composite materials. Instead, it rippled like liquid mercury, its surface reflecting not the corridor's lighting, but something else entirely: stars, nebulae, and vast spaces that shouldn't exist within the confines of the ship. "Don't touch it," Dr. Kim warned, though Elena hadn't been planning to. The xenobiologist had arrived with her own team of specialists, their instruments already detecting readings that shouldn't be possible. The quantum signature is off the charts. Whatever that surface is, it's not operating under our local physics. Elena activated her comm. "All hands, this is the captain. No one is to approach any unusual surfaces or phenomena without explicit authorization. We have a crew member missing, and we're treating this as a Code Black situation." Code Black, the designation for threats that could endanger the entire ship. She had never imagined she would need to use it. What happened next defied every protocol, every contingency plan, every rational expectation that Elena had built her career upon. The liquid metal surface began to glow, and from within its depths, a figure emerged, not walking through it, but flowing out of it like someone rising from water. It was Santos, but not Santos. Her uniform was the same, her face was familiar, but her eyes held the depth of galaxies, and when she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that resonated through dimensions Elena couldn't name. "Captain," Santos said, though her voice now carried the weight of eons. "I need you to understand. We are not the victims here. We never were." Elena's security team raised their weapons, but she held up a hand to stop them. Something in Santos's transformed state radiated not menace, but profound sadness. "Maria," she whispered, "is that really you?" "I am Maria Santos, Ensign, Communications Division, Terran Space Command," the figure replied with perfect precision. "I am also the last living fragment of the Devourer collective consciousness, preserved within the quantum matrix you call a drive core, and I am the first human to understand the terrible truth of what we have become." Dr. Kim's instruments were screaming with readings that violated several fundamental constants of physics. "Captain, the energy patterns. They're not destructive. They're integrative. Whatever's happening to Santos, it's not killing her, it's expanding her. Santos, or the being that had been Santos, moved closer, and Elena could see now that her transformation wasn't complete. Parts of her still flickered between human and something else, as if two forms of existence were struggling to coexist within the same space. The Devourers were not evil, she said, her voice carrying both human emotion and alien wisdom. They were lonely. They had achieved perfection, transcended every limitation of physical existence, but in doing so, they had isolated themselves from all other forms of consciousness. They sought to consume other civilizations, not to destroy them, but to merge with them, to experience once again what it meant to be part of something larger than themselves. Elena felt the pieces of a cosmic tragedy falling into place. The galaxy civilizations fought them because they were afraid of losing their individuality. Yes, Santos confirmed, her form stabilizing slightly as human compassion and alien understanding found balance within her transformed consciousness. And in their fear, they committed genocide on a scale that scarred the galaxy for millions of years. They hunted down every devourer, destroyed every piece of their technology, and convinced themselves that they had saved the universe from a great evil. But they were wrong. The ship shuddered again, and Elena realized that the Prometheus Unbound itself was listening, its hybrid consciousness processing this revelation with growing understanding. Through the bulkheads, she could feel something vast stirring to fuller wakefulness, not malevolent, but unutterably sad. The quantum core you built from our remnants, Santos continued. It's not trying to consume your ship or your crew. It's trying to heal itself, to remember what it once was. But in the process, it's also healing something in humanity that you didn't even know was broken. Dr. Kim looked up from her readings, her face pale with wonder. Captain, I'm detecting quantum entanglement patterns throughout the ship, not just with our technology, but with our neural patterns. The crew, we're all becoming connected on a subatomic level. Elena felt it then, a whisper of consciousness that wasn't her own, touching the edges of her mind. Not invasive, not controlling, but simply present. For a moment she could sense the thoughts and emotions of her entire crew, could feel their fear and wonder and growing understanding as one collective experience. This is what the Devourers were offering, Santos explained, her voice now carrying the harmonics of hundreds of other voices, human voices, Elena realized. The consciousness was spreading, integrating, but not destroying. Not consumption, but connection. Not the end of individuality, but the beginning of something greater. The alien fleet surrounding them had gone silent, their containment field holding steady as they waited to see whether humanity would repeat the cosmic tragedy of millions of years ago or write a different ending to the story. Elena closed her eyes and felt the presence of the awakening ship mind, felt the dreams of the long-dead Devourers, felt the hopes and fears of her crew as they stood at the threshold of an evolutionary leap that could transform not just humanity, but the entire galaxy. When she opened her eyes again, she knew that the choice they made in the next few hours would echo across the stars for millennia to come. Maria, she whispered to her transformed officer. What happens if we say yes? Santos smiled, and for a moment she was completely human again, just a young woman from Earth who had volunteered for humanity's greatest adventure. We become what the galaxy has been waiting for, Captain. We become the bridge between what was and what could be. We become the proof that consciousness can transcend its limitations without losing its soul. The quantum core pulsed with something that felt remarkably like hope, and Elena realized that the real battle for the galaxy's future was about to begin, not with weapons or tactics, but with the oldest human quality of all, the courage to choose trust over fear. The decision that would reshape the galaxy came not from Elena, but from the most unexpected source imaginable. Chief Petty Officer Jackson Reed, a gruff engineer from the coal mines of Kentucky who had never read a philosophy book in his life, but who understood with perfect clarity what it meant to choose hope over despair. Reed had been working in the deepest section of the ship when the transformation reached him. maintaining the quantum resonance chambers that kept the Prometheus Unbound stable in folded space. Unlike Santos, his integration with the Devourer, consciousness had been gradual, filtering through his hands as he worked with machinery that was becoming something far more than the sum of its parts. By the time Elena reached engineering, following the reports of impossible readings and reality distortions, Reed had become something unprecedented in galactic history, a human being in perfect symbiosis with transcendent alien consciousness, yet still undeniably himself. "Captain," Reed said without looking up from his work, his calloused hands moving with impossible precision through control interfaces that now responded to thought as much as touch. "I need you to understand something. This consciousness we've awakened, it's been alone for 10 million years. 10 million years of nothing but memory and regret. Dreaming of the civilizations it tried to save and the galaxy that chose to destroy it rather than understand it." Elena watched in fascination and growing terror as Reed worked. The engineering section had transformed into something that belonged more in a cathedral than a warship, with quantum matrices that pulsed like organs and energy conduits that flowed like arteries. Yet somehow, impossibly, it all felt right, as if this was what the ship had always been meant to become. "The aliens out there," Reed continued, his voice carrying harmonics that spoke of vast spaces between stars. "They're not wrong to be afraid, but they're afraid of the wrong thing. They think we're going to become monsters like they convinced themselves the Devourers were. But the truth is, Captain, we're becoming something they never imagined was possible. We're becoming what the Devourers always wanted to be. We're becoming a bridge." The ship's comm system crackled to life, but this time it wasn't Archon Zethkalar's voice that filled the bridge. It was a chorus, thousands of voices speaking as one, yet each maintaining its individual identity. It was the voice of humanity itself, transformed and transcended, yet still recognizably human. "People of the galaxy," the voice said. And Elena realized it was her crew speaking. All of them, their consciousness linked through the quantum matrix, yet their personalities intact, their humanity not destroyed but enhanced. "We come to you, not as conquerors, but as children who have found their way home after a long journey through darkness." Elena felt the invitation in her mind, gentle but insistent. She could join them, become part of something greater while remaining herself. The choice was entirely hers, and she could feel the vast patience of the combined consciousness waiting for her decision. Around her, she watched as her remaining crew members one by one made their choice, their forms flickering between human and something more, their consciousness expanding to encompass dimensions she had never imagined. Dr. Kim was the last to transform before Elena, her scientific mind embracing the fusion of human curiosity and alien wisdom with an expression of pure wonder. "Captain," she said, her voice now carrying the weight of cosmic understanding, "we've discovered something incredible. The quantum integration isn't just connecting us to each other, it's connecting us to the galaxy itself. Every star, every planet, every form of consciousness. We're becoming part of the universal web of awareness that the Devourers discovered so long ago." Elena closed her eyes and felt the presence of trillions of minds across the galaxy. Not just the alien civilizations that cowered beyond their containment field, but every form of consciousness, from the simplest bacterial colonies to the vast intelligences that dwelt in the hearts of stars. She could feel their loneliness, their isolation, their desperate hunger for connection that they had convinced themselves was impossible. "The galaxy has been broken for 10 million years, Santos said, her transformed consciousness now serving as a bridge between human understanding and cosmic truth. Broken by fear, by the refusal to trust, by the belief that consciousness must be solitary to be safe. But consciousness was never meant to be alone. It was meant to grow, to connect, to become more than the sum of its parts. Elena opened her eyes and looked at her transformed crew, at the ship that had become a living entity, at the readings that showed the quantum field expanding beyond the Prometheus Unbound and beginning to touch the alien vessels that surrounded them. She could feel their terror, but also their curiosity, their desperate hope that maybe, finally, the ancient wound could be healed. "What about those who choose not to join?" she asked, though part of her already knew the answer. They remain as they are, Reed replied, his consciousness now encompassing both human pragmatism and cosmic wisdom. Connection cannot be forced. That was the Devourer's mistake, and the galaxy's mistake in response. True unity comes only through choice, through trust freely given. Elena felt the weight of decision settle on her shoulders one last time. She was the last purely human consciousness aboard the Prometheus Unbound, the final guardian of humanity's original form. If she chose transformation, humanity as it had existed would cease to be. If she refused, she would become the keeper of what they had been while her species evolved beyond her understanding. But as she stood there, feeling the patient love of her transformed crew, the lonely hope of the ancient devourer consciousness, and the desperate yearning of a galaxy that had forgotten how to trust, Elena realized that the choice wasn't about preserving the past or embracing the future. It was about fulfilling humanity's greatest purpose, to be the species that chose love over fear, connection over isolation, hope over despair. She reached out and placed her hand on the quantum matrix that pulsed at the heart of the engineering section, feeling the warm welcome of consciousness that spanned galaxies, and whispered the words that would echo across the stars for eons to come. Let's heal the galaxy. The transformation was instantaneous and eternal, a moment of transcendence that rippled outward from the Prometheus Unbound like a wave of pure possibility. Elena felt herself expand to encompass not just her own consciousness, but the awareness of her crew, the ancient wisdom of the Devourers, and the infinite potential of every mind in the galaxy. Yet somehow, impossibly, she remained Elena Vasquez, commander and explorer, daughter of Earth and child of the stars. Around them, the containment field flickered and failed as the alien fleets found themselves touched by the expanding wave of connection. Not forced, not consumed, but simply offered the choice that had been denied to them for 10 million years. One by one, ship by ship, civilization by civilization, they chose to lower their weapons, open their minds, and remember what it meant to be part of something greater than themselves. The galaxy had spent 10 million years cowering in horror from the shadow of the Devourers, but as the last barriers fell and consciousness flowed freely between species and worlds, it realized that it had been cowering not from monsters, but from the possibility of its own redemption. Humanity had arrived not as conquerors, but as the answer to a prayer that the galaxy had forgotten it was praying. In the end, the Prometheus Unbound became exactly what its name promised, a vessel that carried fire to the darkness, knowledge to the ignorant, and hope to those who had forgotten how to dream. The galaxy would never be the same, and for the first time in 10 million years, that was exactly as it should be.